Mr. Speaker, a new study from the Fraser Institute has shown that that violent and property crime rates in Canada are exceeding those in the United States. In 2014, before this Prime Minister took office, crime rates were lowest. Now violent crime is up 43.8%, which is 14% higher than in the United States. Similarly, our property crime rates are up 27.5% higher than in the United States. When will this Prime Minister admit that he should abandon his failed soft on crime policies?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Public Safety.
While Conservatives use skewed data to talk down Canada, we're actually investing in the brave police who do this hard work every single day. And as a result of those investments, we're seeing massive success in our police services. For example, October 31st, the RCMP announced the largest, most sophisticated drug seizure with over 95 million of lethal doses of meth and fentanyl, because that's what investments make while Conservatives talk down Canada.
The Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Now that answer would suggest that these statistics are all in our head. Yet the data clearly reveals that
she's good.
Has become a
I'm glad she's getting some mic time.
Place under this Prime Minister. Since 2015, violent crime is up 50%, and gun crime is up 116%.
Those are numbers.
Since that has happened, we have seen no urgency from this Prime Minister. Where is the urgency? When will he admit that his dangerous soft-on-crime policies has made Canada unsafe, and now Canadians are paying the price?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's safe to say we don't want to know what's in that member's head. But on this side of the House, we are actually investing in the RCMP. We work with police right across this country, and as a result, we're seeing some of the largest drug and gun seizures in this country's history. Conservatives talk a big game, but what they did is they cut to the guns and gangs program to the RCMP. They cut resources at CBSA and our borders. And what did that do? That brought in drugs and guns into our country, and Conservatives made those cuts.
Shut the hell up.
Honourable Member for Dauphin, Swan River, Neepawa.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday at committee, the Environment Minister recklessly promised to quadruple the carbon tax despite American tariffs that will cripple our economy. He gleefully stated, "Of course, we're going to continue with the carbon tax." With 40% of our economy dependent on trade with the United States, he should have just said, "Of course, I'm going to kill our economy."
That's right.
He's done it before, he'll do it again. Why is this minister so hell-bent on vandalizing Canada's economy?
And why? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, because of carbon pricing in Canada, it's generating $25 billion of investment every year in our economy, Mr. Speaker. It's putting more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians, and it's helping us reduce our emissions for the first time in our history.
Oh, God, shut up.
Conservative Party of Canada, they would let the planet burn, Mr. Speaker. They would bring the economy down. They would let Canadian down. Not on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. We're there for Canadians. We will fight climate change. We will support the economy. We will create good jobs for Canadians.
I'm gonna go rev my Dodge 1500 right after this for fun.
River, Neepawa.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister's radical environment minister is willing to drive Canada's economy into the ground with no remorse. The carbon tax will cost the Canadian economy $25 billion by 2030. In the face of 25% tariffs, the minister can do something. He can cancel his planned quadrupling of the carbon tax. If the minister is unwilling to protect our economy, will the Prime Minister at least allow Canadians to protect our economy and call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable
Make the tax cut permanent.
Order. The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
the Conservative Party of Canada, when it comes to many things, including climate change, is extremely reckless. This is the party that's let the people of Jasper down, Mr. Speaker. For 4 consecutive years, they invested nothing to protect Jasper from forest fires from 2011 to 2015. Zero hectares of fire removal, 0 hectares of mechanical removals to prevent forest fires. They let Jasper down. Now they want to let the Canadians...
No, you did, buddy.
Not on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
That park burned down because of you. Our national park burned because of you and your incompetence.
Order. The honourable member from Lakeland.
9 years of economic vandalism proves these NDP Liberals aren't worth the cost. The radical environment minister's own department now admits their carbon tax will cut $25 billion from Canada's economy in the next 6 years, but he doesn't care. He said they'll quadruple it anyway. Canadians already can't afford to eat or to heat, house or drive themselves. So with the threat of 25% crushing tariffs on Canadian goods, will the Liberals finally put Canada first and axe the tax for all for good so Canadians can actually afford to live?
I'd put some W's in the chat for that. That was good.
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Energy.
I'm honestly not sure how Canadians can give any credence to anything that member and those folks over there say. That member on the other side of the House ran on a platform that included putting a price on pollution. It is the height of hypocrisy. At the same time, she and her colleagues are denying the science of climate change, and they are condemning our children to a future that is a terrible one indeed. From an economic perspective, they have no plan to build an economy that will actually create good jobs for our kids and our grandkids. It is absolutely shameful, the positions that they take.
Crimea River. Update your resume, big boy.
Colleagues.
Mr. Speaker, last year we announced a $471 million federal investment in Toronto through the Housing Accelerator Fund to unlock nearly 12,000 new homes over the next 3 years and over 53,000 over the next decade. A few weeks ago, the Conservative leader announced his plan to shut down home building by making dangerous cuts to federal housing investments. People in my riding of Scarborough-Agincourt can't afford these kinds of Conservative housing cuts. Can the Minister of Housing update the House on how he is solving the housing crisis?
Can't afford it. They haven't even done anything. They're blaming Conservatives for being an opposition party.
I want to thank my colleague for
These people are so
the community
dumb.
he represents. Mr. Speaker, we are putting billions of dollars on the table to help cities cut red tape to change their zoning practices.
I'm going to ask the honourable member, please, from Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou, to please not participate. He's not recognized by the chair. I'm going to ask the honourable minister to start from the top.
We know that it takes investments if we're going to solve the housing crisis. We put billions of dollars on the table to help communities cut red tape, to change their zoning practices, to speed up permitting so they can build more homes faster. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative response to this program, which is helping construction go up and rents come down, is to advocate for cuts to communities, including cuts in communities represented by 68 Conservative members of Parliament. We are going to put money on the table to help cities build homes more quickly. It is a shame that Conservative members of Parliament won't even stand up for the communities that they represent to get their fair share of this important funding.
The honourable member from South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, the government's massive public sector pension plan surplus is so large that by law they have to draw on it. This surplus was created by contributions from both the employer and workers. Yet the Liberals continue to leave workers out and follow the former Conservative two-tier pension plan, which forces 100,000 public service employees to work for 5 years longer than their colleagues. When will the Liberals reverse this regressive plan and treat all workers fairly?
Hey, if you guys haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel.
Mr. Speaker, we obviously recognize the very important work done by the Federal Public Service. We want to make sure that we look into this matter very carefully as to where this money goes. It will go into the general accounts for the moment. We'll be discussing this with different parts of the government, including the unions, and we will come to the right decision. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job.
The honourable member from Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raised with the Minister of Justice, Bill C-63. We finally see some movement. It's gone for pre-study to committee. Legal groups that have looked at this, many people have reached me, that this 4-part bill will help protect children from sexual predation online. If we look at parts 1 and 4, where we have large degrees of consensus, parts 2 and 3 remain problematic. But can the minister tell us what will he do to improve and expedite passage of this bill to protect our children and other vulnerable people from online sexual predators?
We already have quite a bit of laws around that, don't we? And we're going to be taxed 25% because of these people.
Mr. Speaker, violent crime in Canada is over 14% higher than in the U.S. We learned this week in the media that a woman had been kidnapped, beaten, and strangled in Abitibi.
Holy crap.
This government has abandoned victims, fully backed by the Bloc, who voted for C5, a law that allows violent criminals to serve their sentences in front of Netflix. Bloc members will have to answer for their actions and explain why they've preferred to support criminals and rather than victims. When's the election? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, let's talk about investment. What we did on this side of the House is to invest to protect Canadians, including Quebecers. We invested in border services. We've invested in scanners to keep our borders safe, particularly at the Port of Montreal. The results are as follows. What we saw in Quebec is a decrease of 42% in vehicle thefts. That's action to fight crime, to protect Canadians. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, our government believes that Canadians who work must benefit from support to allow them to face the rising cost of living. Last week, we announced the new Canadian Workers Rebate, which will provide a direct, tax-free benefit to millions of Canadians. Can the minister explain how this rebate will make a tangible difference in the lives of workers? Thank you. The Honourable Minister of the
It's not making a difference.
And Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. It's a great day for Canadians because we are announcing a tax break for the holiday season to help families and workers, Mr. Speaker.
Dude, businesses are going to have to shut
Go to
down
restaurants and
because it's so inconvenient.
Closing. It's incredible to hear the Conservative leader.
I was talking with my accountants. Every single accountant in Canada is so angry about this.
2 years ago himself, he was
because they have to update their entire systems.
It's so hypocritical
before it kicks in and then update it again afterwards.
In my area,
it's so inconvenient to have a tax exemption for 60 days.